Welcome back everybody. Today we're going over this pistol that you see in my hands right here and that you guys saw throughout the intro. This is the FN 509 Tactical. Now the 509 Tactical has been out for a little bit. The tan model's probably been out for about a year. The black one's relatively new. It's been out for a couple months as I'm actually doing this video. Who knows, maybe down the road they'll do a green version. We shall see. But for right now, we're just gonna get into this actual pistol. And I should mention before we go any further that the folks over at Gun Pro Deals did send this one out to us for the review. So big thank you to them for making this possible. They have some pretty good prices, which we'll get to here in just a second on this pistol as well. So a lot of people think that this is the best optics ready factory pistol out there on the market. I tend to sort of agree with that, but we'll get into details as to why that is here in just a second. But the FN 509, I've had mine in, the regular one, for, I don't know, a year and a half at this point. It's got about 3,000 rounds through it. It has zero malfunctions of any kind. So these guns have been out for a while, at least the 509s, and they have pretty high regards amongst the people that own them. So what we're gonna do is do a little bit more shooting with it, and then we're gonna get into all the different details that go into making this pistol what it is.
Houston, we have a problem. If I had to guess, that's me activating the ambi mag release, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Now we're going to get into the details of the pistol. I wanted to kind of show you what it comes with. It does come with a nice soft padded case that you guys see here. It comes with two 24 round magazines and then a 17 round magazine, which is flush fitting. You guys have probably seen it throughout the video already. And the 24 rounders, of course, they do stick out a little bit, and these are going to also work in your regular 509s if you guys have one. That's not a tactical quote-unquote model. You get two recoil springs, so we have this one here, which is a 17 pound, and then it also has a 22 pounder, which is in the gun right now. A couple thoughts on that. Why would you want both? One reason is if you're going to run it suppressed, you're going to want that heavier spring, generally speaking, for optimal reliability. And I found that to be the case. The only thing I have found with that is that sometimes it doesn't lock the slide to the rear when using my Liberty Cosmic can on the last round. So it is what it is. But when we had the 17 pound assembly in there, we did have a failure to extract when it was suppressed. Now both the 17 pound and the 22 pound assembly ran 100% with either subs or supers when not suppressed. So that's something to point out. I know some of the guys out there who are going to run comps on the threaded barrel are going to probably lean towards the 17 pounder for a little bit more smooth shooting impulse. The gun also comes with interchangeable back straps. The one we have on there is the curved one. I tend to rather like a little bit larger grips because I have larger hands, but some of you guys have real small hands, might like the smaller backstrap, just be a little bit more comfortable for you. We have our optics mounting guide, which we'll get to here in just a second, and all of our different optics inserts, which we will get to as well. Moving on to the frame itself, it does have a good texture pattern to it, in my opinion. On the sides, it's aggressive, but not so aggressive that it's going to braid your skin or belt or anything like that if you're carrying it concealed. And then the front strap and the back strap have a little bit more aggressive texturing to them, which I certainly like. It definitely helps keep the gun steady in your hand, whether you're sweaty, bloody, whatever the case may be. Gives you a nice positive grip. And then we have these ergonomic cuts there on the top, and that's basically right there where people's hands and thumbs are going to go into, and it definitely feels good in the hand for sure. Points naturally has a natural grip angle, sort of like the Smith & Wesson M&Ps and 1911 have, so not a whole lot to complain about there. The mag release is ambidextrous. In fact, the gun is fully ambidextrous with the exception of the takedown lever, and as you guys saw earlier, that can be a problem. I've actually pointed this out in several reviews I've done over the years, is that I really actually don't like ambidextrous mag releases for exactly the reason that you saw. You can inadvertently activate it when firing. So I'm not sure if it was my knuckle right here on the firing hand, or if it was my sort of pad of my palm right here activating it. I'm pretty sure I would go with my knuckle if I had to guess. But on a lot of guns it's not an issue, but if you have that 24 round mag kind of hanging down there, it only needs to be bumped a little bit because it's going to have a little gravity assisting it on the way down, and you can run into that issue. It's a very real thing. It's happened to me several times. I tend to prefer swappable mag releases. So if you have one that can be swapped to the left hand or right side of the pistol, that's my preference. I know a lot of guys like ambi, so take that for what it's worth, I suppose. The slide release and slide lock is also, of course, ambidextrous. It has this little protected fence around there, which I really, really like. The reason I say that is I have a tendency, because I do shoot with a high thumbs grip like so, I have a tendency with some guns, particularly SIG 226 has come to mind, to accidentally actuate that and cause a false failure to lock to the rear on the last round. That has never happened to me on an FN 509, so good on them for that, for putting that fence around there to protect it from people with big old ape hands like myself. Continuing forward on the frame, we do have our 1913 rail there out front, and then our serial number underneath it. 1913 rail really takes just about any sort of light laser accessory that you could want to put on there. I've been running it mostly with the Surefire X300, been very happy with it. It has not come loose at all, as you would expect. We do have a relatively large trigger guard there, so those of you guys who are going to be firing with gloves on, maybe living in a cold environment, you should have plenty of room in there. We'll make sure it is clear here real quick, and we are clear. The trigger has a safety built into it, in that you have to actually depress the lower part of the trigger, causing this piece here to go up, recess into the top of the trigger, and allow movement to the rear. So it's similar to the trigger safety that Glock has in terms of function, but how it does it is a little bit different. See here, if I just push back on the top of the trigger, it will not go back. However, if we do a natural press, it goes up and in there. The trigger on this gun breaks right at 6 pounds on my scale pretty much every time. We have a little bit of kind of creep and play there, and then it hits a pretty good wall. Has a pretty clean break and almost no over travel for a striker fired gun, that is. And the reset is very tactile, very positive, very audible, just like that. And again, to press it, you're going to take up the slack, and then from this point on, it has a pretty good break. There you go. It's very predictable. It's very easy to shoot this gun well. If you guys watched my original 509 video, it shoots some great groups, and the trigger has something to do with that. Now, I know there are a ton of aftermarket triggers out there for it, and I know some of you guys are just aftermarket trigger junkies, so if that's you, there are plenty of options for you if you want to do that. However, I like the trigger as it comes. I have no issues with it. Getting into the slide, you'll see we do have serrations at the rear and at the front. The slide does have a nitrided finish, so it's going to be very good in terms of corrosion resistance, surface hardness, wear, all of those sorts of things that nitride is good at. It comes with very good factory sights. So the sights on the rear are subdued and have these little serrations there on the back of them. However, they are tritium, but subdued tritium, in that you can very easily in low light distinguish between the front and the rear sight, which is a very good thing and can come in handy. The front sight is high, just like the rear, so that way you can co-witness with optics. And then we have the bright ring around it, the bright white ring, I should say. Really, they're excellent factory sights compared to some of the competitive options out there. They're infinitely better in my opinion. And then, of course, we have our optics mounting system, so let's get into that. Normally I wouldn't be zooming in on a piece of paper in a review, however this says it much better than anything I could say. Over here on the left you see the different types of optics that it is cut to work with. On there is not the new aim point, however it does work with it for those wondering. We have our different screw types here, and then we have our different inserts with pictures of them rather, so that way you know which ones to use as you're setting it up. I think it's a very good guide. It was very helpful, and the actual system itself is excellent. I'm going to go ahead and say right up front, it's the best factory, i.e. not milled optics mounting platform that I've seen on any sort of major competitor out there so far. So just to walk you through it here real quick, if you actually look at the diagram, you'll see that this little piece right here is the insert that we're going to put on there for the RMR. And then at this point, we're going to take this piece and put it on there. And one thing you'll notice that's different on this versus some of the other competitive options out there on the market is that your little insert here, which is a MIM part, or rather cast, looking at it, I think it's MIM. It's a MIM part, which a lot of folks probably don't like, but it's not threaded. So what's good about that, in my opinion, is that it's just acting functionally as a recoil lug with this little back plate there on the rear. It's not actually acting as something that you're going to screw and mount the optic to. The optic mounts directly onto the frame. That's important because of lots of different things. Number one, it's less likely to shear off should you actually be doing one-hand manipulation, those sorts of things. It's also less likely to come loose because when you have two things that you're mounting it into, like most of the competitive options, i.e. the plate and the frame, there's just more things to come loose, right? So that's not the case with this system. I still recommend using either some blue or purple Loctite on there, which I did, and I didn't have a single issue at all throughout the use of this pistol. Now, one thing I will say is that the design of the gun is pretty much set up for the Leupold DeltaPoint Pro. Now, that probably draws on the heritage of this being a MHS submission pistol. The MHS project, they went with the Leupold DeltaPoint Pro as the optic for it, and the reason I say it's set up for it is because with that, if you actually go back and reference the diagram, the Leupold mounts directly without a plate like this. So all the other options are going to require a plate like we do here with the RMR, and that's just going to bring it up about a millimeter and a half higher than the DeltaPoint would be. However, again, still co-witnesses just fine with these sights and very easy to use, suppressed or unsuppressed. I don't think it's an issue at all, just pointing it out. With all of that said, I'm sure some of you guys are just going to run it with iron sights as it comes from the factory. Good news is, like I already said, excellent sights for sure. And then this little piece is what comes with it in place of the adapter plates. So from the factory, this is what it's going to look like, and it's a very well thought out design. So what it does is it has a good angle on there, and it also has serrations up front. So that way, again, doing one-hand manipulations, you're actually putting the stress on the steel plate rather than on your sights. Now, that said, these, again, sights are steel. They're excellent sights. You could 100% do one-handed manipulations all day long with them. But if you don't have to, and you can use this plate as sort of the sacrificial lamb for the force, I say have at it. It's definitely a cool system for sure. And again, it's my favorite to date of the bunch. So disassembly of the pistol is pretty simple. We're just going to make sure it is unloaded, and it is. I'm going to rotate our takedown lever, and at this point we're going to let the pistol go home, point a safe direction, pull the trigger, and the slide will come off the frame. Again, this is the 22-pound recoil spring that we have in there, and since the barrel is threaded, we have to remove the thread protector to remove it. However, the thread protector has a cool feature as well. I will show you, kind of one of those well thought out things that a lot of companies miss. So it's a 1/2 by 28 threaded, so most of your common American-made suppressors will work on there just fine. If we can kind of look inside there, you'll see that there is an O-ring on there, and an O-ring is built into the thread protector. Like, you can't take, I'm sure you could take it out, but it would take considerable effort to take it out. It doesn't come out on its own, let's put it that way. So what that does is, as soon as you snug it down, it's not going to fly off when you're shooting. So definitely good on FN for that. Barrel is cold hammer forged, made out of stainless steel. FN's barrels are some of the best in the world. They definitely have earned that reputation for sure, and this one is no exception to that rule. Shoots very well. Back here we have our striker safety, just another safety for folks that say guns like this don't have safeties. This one has 3 safeties built into it, just like most striker fired guns. But overall, looking in the inside, you'll see there's no machine marks or anything like that, and with a nitride finish, machine marks show up very, very easily, and we don't see them in there, so that certainly is good. We have the F and C proof marks up front. Reassembly is the same, just in the opposite order. Of course, we have up written on the actual barrel because this was MHS gun, and sometimes soldiers need that kind of that kind of instruction. We're going to put the recoil assembly back in there, line it up there on the frame, slide it back, rotate the lever, and we're back and ready to go. Just like the trigger that I mentioned earlier in the video, there are a ton of aftermarket accessories out there already for these guns. It's one of the byproducts of them being very popular. Holsters are no exception to that. We have the MIE holster here. It's made for the X300U, and this is my writing on there. It comes not with that, but I put my horrible penmanship on there just so that way I can identify it in my box of holsters. But it locks up good. It has a space there for the optic, of course, and it also has a space for the threaded barrel. So again, the options are out there. We'll drop a link down below for the holsters if you guys are looking to pick one up.
For some reason, people always ask if the gun will work with Tula, so we got some here. We'll see how it does. Just fine.
Hopefully we didn't bore you too much with the details, but I do think they are important. Now we're going to get into the reliability factor. You guys have already seen probably a couple issues on camera. However, every one of those has been suppressed. So basically, again, we had the issue where the mag dropped out while firing. Again, I think that is because of the AMB mag release. That's my opinion. It's happened on other guns as well. And then I had a fair to lock back on the last round, and then we did have one malfunction when shooting it suppressed with the 17-round spring. However, again, it's been 100% reliable when not suppressed. Suppressors tend to do funny things to guns. It just kind of is what it is. The weight can vary, the way the booster performs can vary, and of course the ammunition and spring weight can vary. So there's a lot of variables that come into play with that. I believe Tim over at the Military Arms channel had some problems cycling subsonic rounds with it. I haven't had any of that at all. It cycled everything just fine. Again, just that one issue where it didn't lock the slide back once, but other than that, it's been good. Again, suppressors on pistols, in my personal opinion, you're introducing a variable that could lead to a higher probability of malfunctions. Just my experience, and I've been shooting suppressed pistols a good bit, so take that for what it's worth. Other than that, again, reliability was good. Cost on this one, in my opinion, it's pretty good for what it is. So for all the different features that you get with this pistol, again, very good night sights, very good mounting system, 224-round mags, a 17-round mag, cold hammer forged barrel, threaded barrel, those sorts of things. I think it comes in at a pretty fair price point. Right now over at Gun Pro Deals, I think it was under $800. We'll roll it in here on the screen, and where we can, of course, we'll also link to them in the video description below. So for the price point, again, for everything you get with it, I think it's a good deal and a good value, and I would definitely pick one up if I was in the market for one. Again, my original 509 is going strong. I love that gun, and that's why I wanted to get this one in to check out. Of course, when these were originally released, as well as the Glock 19Xs, a lot of people kind of mock them because it has, sort of the mid-size slide and full-size grip, like a mullet gun, party in the back, business in the front. But I really like the way they shoot. The shooting impulse is great on both of those pistols, and it's just very smooth. It tracks well, gets on target, back on target rather, fairly quickly. So I'm a fan of the FN509s for sure, in case you didn't know already at this point in the video. If you guys have any questions about the pistol that we didn't cover here, you can always post those down below in the comment section as always. However, if you actually need to get in touch with me and you need a response, the best place to get me is over at my Facebook page. I tend to see the messages over there, whereas I don't on YouTube at full 30 all the time. So that's where to get me if you actually need an answer. And I also share a bunch of great deals and stuff like that over there. So should they have a great deal on this gun or anything related to it, like that RMR that we've been using throughout the video, it'll be posted up on Facebook for everybody to take advantage of. So that's pretty much it. We're going to end it there. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing all of you in the next video.
We're going to do a quick sound check here. We have the Liberty Cosmic. It's a 45 caliber can from Liberty Suppressors on the 509 that was sent out by Gun Pro Deals. We have a few minute ammunitions, supersonic rounds through it, in it rather, and we'll see how that sounds real quick. Let's put them in the dirt. All right, failed the lockback. That's actually on the, we have the suppressor spring in there. For those who don't know, the 509 comes with 2 springs. And now we have some 150 grain subsonic stuff. See how that does. I'm hoping the mic can pick that up, but I definitely hear it about the same again with electronic ears on, of course. In terms of the sound, I hear the report from the firearm as I do with it hitting the backstop down there. So pretty cool.